Hi Jessica. So I spotted a couple of problems with your label. The first one is to do with your text. So always make sure that you don't have overset text. So always check those errors. Remember we did a tutorial on pre-flight. So always check your errors so that now mine's got missing fonts. Yours probably doesn't have this. But I'm not worried about the fonts. It's this overset text on page 2. Okay, so what that means is that there's not enough text within this text box, right? So you need to be able to fit all of that text within that text box. I would have marked that down if I spotted that too. Okay, so you check your separations through the separations preview, and so you've got UV spot. UV spot goes over the top of something, so that means that you normally wouldn't want knockout, although this has been left as white. But at the same time, you know, it's safer to have an overprint, a fill in this case, in terms of putting in a UV spot. And what UV spot is it? Is it a UV spot gloss or a matte? Remember that there's different types, so you need to indicate that. So we'll work on that in a sec. The other thing I want to discuss is how you've done this, which is not necessarily right. So you need bleed. So where you've got your die cut here, if there's a small movement in the machinery, you're going to get white here. So there needs to be bleed coming out of this. So my suggestion to you, I'm going to, luckily you've got things in, well actually, you probably, let's see. Yeah, no, you've got, okay. Would have been nicer to have this separated. So this thing here and this thing here need to bleed out, okay? If you've got a die cut that cuts right on that edge, you need to have bleed. So what I might do is I might create a new layer and separate these two shapes into that layer so I can focus on the two on their own. Okay, and so I'm just going to hide all of these so that I can focus on that. Okay, so these two need to expand out, but the problem with it is, so there's always going to be problems when you expand out from a corner like this where you've got one color joining in with another color, right? So expanding out the rest of it is not so difficult. And it's the same thing with, so sorry, I'll put the die line in there again so that we can see. So it's the same thing with, sorry, why did I go to that page? Oh, okay, so you've got that here. So you've got this green stuff going out here, but you don't have that going out here. So it should come out here on the other page. Okay, so there's some things that you need to fix in this. All right, so to fix this one, you would need, what I would do is I'd create a line that goes from, I'm going to make sure that I've got smart guides on. Actually, this is InDesign, isn't it? So you would need a shape like this. So, and these are shapes, I take it, not in, no, so you didn't, I would have probably done this in Illustrator. So if you create a shape that goes at 45 degrees, out like this to the bleed, that would, don't know if this actually drew it, I'll just try that again. I don't know why it doesn't want to expand, but let's make sure that it goes to the bleed. Okay, so that would make the angle that you need for this to bleed out. And then you can use that same line to make that angle as well. Now, like I said, for this kind of stuff, it's much easier to do that in Illustrator than it is in InDesign. Not sure if you made your shapes in InDesign or in Illustrator. I'm just wondering if I copy these and put them in Illustrator, if I can customize it a bit more. I'll just have to mimic the same sizing. So it's 100 by 100. And I take it the other one's 100 by 100. Yep, with a 3mm bleed. So I'm going to create a label that's, is it 110? Sorry. Sorry, yeah, it was 110. 110 by 110 with a 3mm bleed, just to make it easier for me to kind of cut it. Hopefully when I paste this in, oh, I didn't copy it, so I'll try again. Got this and this copied and pasted into here. There we go. And it looks like it worked, except that it's... oh no, it did. Yeah, so it fit perfectly in there. I don't know why it kept all of that. Oh, I went to the wrong thing. Did it work? Didn't look like it extended, did you? Yeah, you did make it long enough, so... Well, at least I've got a guide there, so yeah, so it's been moved across, and that's fine, because at least I've got a guide here and I can actually snap it onto that edge there. Okay, so with Illustrator, it's much easier to do this. I can use a line segment, and I'm using the Shift key to do this at exactly 45 degrees. So it does it at 45 degrees. I'm going to snap it onto the die line. So that's it there. I'm going to give it a default color. So we basically want to join up a shape that goes, so we want this pink color to go out by 45 degrees and this blue color to go out by 45 degrees. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the simplest approach to that. So what I might do is, where's my layers? I'm going to copy that and paste it in front and put it onto a separate layer so that I can use that for the next thing. Right, so those two are going to join up, and it looks like this is not. So in InDesign they are touching exactly. So this then is not touching. You don't have a stroke? No, good. Okay, so I've got to make sure that these touch at the top there. So they need to be pretty much exact, or else we're going to run into trouble later on. I'll make sure that I'm selecting both of them, not just... there. And that might change where I place this. So I might do this again. I'm going to do it with outlines instead, just to make sure that I'm accurate with this. So you use the line segment tool, start at the intersection, hold down the Shift key, click, hold and drag, and snap it to the lead, like that. And so what I can do with that is I can use a pen tool to continue the drawing from there to there. Oh no, I didn't make a... sorry, I didn't make a copy. I've got a copy here, but it's in the wrong place, so I might just delete that copy, make another copy, paste in front, put it onto a separate layer so that I can use that later on. Okay, so with this one, I can join up this shape, and I'll just make sure that it intersects so that it goes inside of that shape. It doesn't really matter where here, as long as it kind of joins up, say from here, and then joins up onto that corner there. So that's the shape that I'm going to use. Okay, and I'm going to copy that same color. So this is the shape you want to bleed out 45-degree angle that bleeds out from the die cut. Okay, so I can actually join all of that using the shape builder tool so that it all becomes one shape. And then all we need to do is, I've got another shape here, and I'm just going to join that shape. Oops, just make sure that I've got the right thing selected there. Yep. I'm going to join that shape to the pink shape that you've got there. So I'm just drawing around the bleed. And that actually, because it's almost straight, I don't think it's going to give us a problem. So, and I'm going to make sure that it intersects. So I might just draw from there and then intersect inside. And it doesn't really matter what shape I make, because this is, I'm going to join all of this, right? So again, the same thing with this. I can use the eyedropper tool to suck in the color. So this is what you should have. I'm going to join all of this. So using the shape builder tool, oops, I thought I selected those two, but obviously I didn't. That and that. Shape builder tool, join. Oh, why are you not joining? I don't know what's going on here. But you two join. Yep. I don't understand what is going on here. It could be that this is grouped. So I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't grouped. Clipping mask. I've got a clipping mask to it, and that's why it's not letting me join it. So I've just got to make sure that it doesn't have a clipping mask. Right, that's better. And that's probably why it was giving me. Yeah, see, in design, when you copy paste, sometimes it adds these ugly clipping masks to your vector graphics. So you just need to make sure that they're not in there. All right, so shape builder tool, I should be able to join all of that together so they are all one shape now. And so I should be able to now copy all of this and paste it in and replace it from here. And you might need to do something similar to the bottom one as well. So I'm going to remove these shapes, and because I've got a separate layer, it should be easy enough just to pay. Oh, what happened to that separate layer? Oh my God. Okay. Just make sure that I put it on a separate layer underneath. Okay. And so I'm going to remove these. Oh my God. What are you selecting? And in this layer here, I'm going to paste these objects. Hit return. So that those shapes are now pasted into here. They've been grouped automatically. It tends to happen when you copy paste stuff. So you got that and that. All right, so sorry, I'm just going to pause this for a sec. Right, so now you've got something that bleeds all the way through, and your die cut won't make any issues or any problems if it shifts a little bit, right? So you're supposed to not make the shape at the edge of the die cut. There needs to be bleed, just in case. And so the same thing with this one here. So you've done something like that, something similar here, which is, that's fine, that would work, but not here. So you need to kind of have, and that's kind of 45 degrees. So that, again, that could work. Okay, so except I don't get that shape. Oh, okay, I can see the shape there. 0.5, yeah. So you just need a bleed. You need to make sure that you've got a bleed from here. So I would pretty much do the same thing again. Make sure that they are, first of all, on a separate layer. Oh, I don't know what I moved then. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. I'll try that again. There we go. Oh my God, what is going on? InDesign, stop mucking around. So somehow it's just undoing without me telling it to undo. Right. That's it there. So I want that into this layer, and of course I want that layer underneath. So I can just focus on that. Does that go to the edge? Only just. Yeah, I think that should be all right. But that, yeah, so what's your die cut? Oh, your die cut cuts over to there to the white. So yeah, we're okay then. So yeah, where it's cutting this white area here, you're okay, because you don't really need the bleed here. It's not actually cutting that shape, it's cutting over here. All right, but where you do have a bleed, when you do have color at the edge of this area, that's where you need bleed. So here and here. Okay, so this just needs to be extended to there, which is actually not that difficult. We could actually do that in InDesign. So all we need is to grab the points that are here. So that point needs to go up to the bleed. This point needs to go up to the bleed. And this point, I'll just make it go out this way. Okay, so that you've got that. And so bring back the die line, and it follows that, and there's some bleed, there's some safe area for it to cut across. Okay, so we can bring that back into the back, but I think it's probably going to put it right at the top, so I'm going to need to grab these two and move them down to the bottom, which you can actually do by going right click, arrange, send to back, and that sends them to all the way to the back. So you don't have to use the layering for that. I tend to use that send to back, but I use a shortcut in most cases. Okay, so that's done. So that's the first thing that needs to be fixed in yours. The next thing that needs to be fixed, of course, is your separation. So your die cut isn't appearing here at all. So you haven't separated your die cut. So let's take a look at your, so you've got a yellow there. I take it that it's the yellow that's the die cut. Yeah, so it's been assigned that yellow, so that's incorrect. Okay, so if I double click that to go into it, you'll notice it says process. This needs to be a spot color, so you need to change it to spot. It doesn't matter what color you actually choose, it must be a spot color though, and then it must be labeled die cut, or die line is fine, but die cut is what I'm going to call it. Okay, so that's being labeled a die cut now, which means if I go to my separations, you'll notice that it's showing a die cut there. So that means that I can, I'll put all these on. Oh, what's going on? So I can hide the die cut, and you can see that it's showing and hiding it. Now, you said you were confused about overprinting. Well, you set yours to overprint, so there's no problem with that. If I go to, it's in output under attributes, you'll notice it says overprint stroke. So if it doesn't have that, and if I hide the die cut, you'll notice that I get a white line because it's knocking out that area. We don't want that. Okay, so under attributes, I always forget where I put attributes. So output attributes. I forget what the icon is, so it's that one there. Overprint stroke. That's what it should be, and that's what you set it to anyway. So you did set your die cut to overprint stroke, so that's correct. Right, and the same thing with this page. If I hide it, there's no knockout. Okay, so you're going to get knockout with the next step, which is, so if I bring these guys in, well, I don't understand why you've got foil either, because you don't seem to have foil here. You've got, so I'm confused. Is it meant to be foil, or is it meant to be UV spot? Okay, so please make sure you label it correctly. Think in terms of reality, like in real life, if you were to produce this to your client and they send it off and they get a UV spot instead of a foil, they're not going to be happy and you're going to be in trouble. So make sure you are clear on what you're doing. So your layer, you've got foil, and in your separation, you've got UV spot. Which one is it? So is it a UV spot or is it a foil? If it's a foil, then make sure that your label is called foil. And what foil is that? So UV spot, it's not clear enough. Remember, you need to be pretty precise with what you want done. What UV spot is it? Is it spot UV varnish? Is it spot UV, well, it is a varnish, but is it gloss or is it a matte? If it's foil, what foil is it? Is it gold foil, silver foil, red foil? You can do white foil even, although that's already white. So you can do all sorts of different types of foil. So which foil is it? Yeah. So let's just say I was doing a silver foil. So under my swatches, I would change this to silver foil. Okay. If it's why is it giving me a capital I? There, silver foil. Right. So, or if it's a spot UV gloss, spot UV gloss, or matte, or whatever it is that you're doing, but make sure that you are specific on what it is in the colors. The printers won't see the layers. They won't see these. They'll only see what you get in the output. Here. Okay. So now it's called spot UV gloss. For a spot UV gloss, if that was to be put over the top of a color, in most cases, well, in all cases, it's going to need a overprint. In your case, because it's white, well, actually, no, it's not white. So you've got pink and green, right? So you actually do need an overprint, right? So because if you don't have an overprint, this will be white and this will be white. You've got pink and green there, right? So again, it's not that hard. You just need the attributes. You select the object that's going to be your embellishment, which in this case is your spot UV gloss, and you tick overprint fill. And same thing with this one, overprint fill. So here's the difference. Okay, so if I don't have that, if I separate the spot UV gloss, you get white. That's what I thought you had, but you don't, right? So the printer would have seen this and went, oh, okay, so this is meant to be white here. But what you want is, you don't want knockout. So where is it? These shapes, the shapes themselves need to be given an overprint. So when you give them an overprint and you hide the spot UV, you don't get knockout. So you don't get that white. Because it's printing over the top of that, it's not knocking out the color. Okay? So I think that's pretty much all that needs to be done in your case. So if I was to output this for print, I'll just double check. Yep. So if I was to output this for print, Adobe PDF presets, I'm going to use X1A 2001. I think this is you've got final art label, so I'll just call this print ready, save, and we need to make sure that we follow the brief. So if the brief asks for all the printer marks, make sure you add all of the printer marks. I'm going to just do crop marks and maybe page information. We need to make sure that we have our bleed set here. So we have a bleed, and our offset should always be 1 mil above the bleed. So if the bleed is 3 mils, the offset is 4 mils. Okay. So, but like I said, make sure you double check the brief. If the brief asks for bleed marks, registration marks, and color bars, make sure you put that in. Everything else should be okay. Export. There's still overset text apparently. So where is your overset text? I thought I fixed that. No, overset text here. Oh, I thought I fixed that. Maybe I undid it because InDesign's been undoing things without me asking to. So there we go. No more overset text. I will obviously have missing fonts because I don't have the fonts that you that you're using, and I can't seem to get them from Adobe. But anyway, so try that again. File, Adobe PDF presets, X1A 2001. Print ready. And we want, I'm going to add in crop marks and page information. I want to add the bleed, 3mm bleed, and I want this to be 4mm offset. Export. Yeah, I'm missing those fonts, I know that. So that you're left with that. I think the brief asks you for registration marks as well, so make sure you add those in. If I look in the the output for Acrobat, I can see all of the colors. I can see the die cut there. There's no knockout on the die cut, and it cuts nicely across that, and there's enough bleed for that to move along a little bit. And I've got my spot UV gloss in there, and you can see there's no knockout, so it's still there. So these two will be separated out, and the artwork will be printed the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so I think that's about it. Hopefully that helped you to be able to finalize your artwork a little bit. It looks weird though, the die cut. Your die cut's kind of off a bit. I don't know why. I don't know if it's meant to be or if I moved it or what. But this die cut should actually be at the edge. So this corner here should actually be at the edge of your artwork. Of your page. And you don't have the same shape here, it's a different shape, so that's fine. But yeah, make sure that it hits the edge. It needs to be a nice even cut between the edge of the page and the bleed. Okay, so alright, hopefully that's that helps you to be able to finish off your artwork. The rest is great, I love the colors. Just make sure you double check that you don't have overset text, please. I think everything else is fine.